Hey, what's going on, guys? Realm Gaming here, back in another video. Today's episode, we're looking at Elemental Shaman in Phase 3 of Season of Discovery. Now, Elemental Shaman is something that I do plan to main this phase, so I'm really excited to make this guide. It's something that I've mained since the Burning Crusade, Shaman in general. Recently, I've been playing a bunch of Restoration Shaman, but I'm going back to my roots of Elemental Shaman this phase, so really excited. So with that being said, let's go and get started. Let's take a look at the elemental talents first. Then we'll go into the enhancement tree, see what's going on there. Then we will get into runes and finally rotation. All right, 5 points into convection here. Reduce the mana cost of your shock, lightning bolt, and chain lightning spells by 10%. Very, very important, right? We want to be able to sustain our mana pool as best as we can, even though that we do have shamanistic rage to help with that. If we are going for top damage, right, we are going to be trying to cast chain lightning as often as possible. So mana will be a bit of an issue, something that we're going to have to manage, and we're going to have to kind of pull back from those chain lightnings if mana does become an issue. Going 5 points into concussion here, increase the damage of lightning bolt, chain lightning, and shock spells by 5%. Really nice to have. 3 points into calling flame, increase the damage done by your fire totems by 15%. So these three combined give us the 15 points. We move down to the next row. Elemental Focus gives you a 10% chance to enter a clear casting state after casting any fire, frost, or nature damage spell. The clear casting state reduces the mana cost of your next damage spell by 100%. So when this procs, we're going to be using it on Chain Lightnings. Chain Lightning is high damage, but also high mana. So this will just negate the high mana cost from it. All right, then 5 points into Reverberation here. Reduce the cooldown of your shock spells by 1 second, so that's really nice. 5 points into Call of Thunder. Increase the crit chance of your Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning spells by an additional 6%. We're going to put 2 points into Storm Reach. Increase the range of Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning by 6 yards. 1 point into Elemental Fury. Increase the critical strike damage bonus of Searing Magma and Fire Nova Totems, and your Fire, Frost, and Nature spells by 100%. So this is what makes Elemental Shaman so bursty, right? This gives us the kind of pop to our abilities. Then we're going to put 5 points into Lightning Mastery, reduces the cast time of your Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning spells by 1 second. Then Elemental Mastery, when activated, the spell gives your next Fire, Frost, or Nature damage spell a 100% critical strike chance, and it reduces the mana cost by 100%. So when you use this, always use it with Chain Lightning. You don't want to use it. We'll kind of talk about this later with Lava Burst. Lava Burst is your hardest hitting spell, technically. However, it's always going to critical strike if Flame Shock is on the target. So it's kind of wasting the critical strike, this 100% critical strike chance if you use it on Lava Burst. It's going to crit anyways, right? So you want to use this on Chain Lightning. Then going into the enhancement tree, we're putting 5 points into Ancestral Knowledge, increases your maximum mana by 5%, and then 3 points into Improved Lightning Shield, increase the damage done by your Lightning Shield auras by 15%. This is kind of going to go hand in hand with our wrist rune, Rolling Thunder. So we're going to go into runes now, so I'll just start with Rolling Thunder because it's one of the new ones. So Rolling Thunder, Lightning Bolt, and Chain Lightning have a 30% chance to add an additional charge to your active lightning shield up to a max of 9 charges. Now also, Earth Shock now releases all lightning shield charges above 3, dealing their damage to the target and energizing you for 2% of the maximum mana per charge released. So basically what this is going to do, right, it's going to take all those charges from lightning shield that we're building up, and it's going to release them into additional mana restored. And, of course, the damage that the charge do themselves. Now, the other cool thing is this kind of works Earthshock into our rotation, right? So if we go to the phase 2 of Elemental Shaman, you can see Earthshock's not in here anywhere. And it's because it's very expensive, and then it also costs a global. So this was Blizzard's attempt to kind of get Earthshock into our rotation, and I think it's going to work. So basically what you'll do is you'll keep Flame Shock up on the target, and then when your shocks come back off cooldown, Earthshock's going to be that filler one until your next round of applying Flame Shock. So that's Rolling Thunder. Turns our Lightning Shield into a way to do damage through our Earth Shock. Instead of us being attacked, we can expend charges by attacking. So pretty nice to have. Let's go to the head rune. Mental Dexterity, really cool rune. Dealing damage with your melee weapons increases your attack power by 100% of your intellect and your spell damage and healing by 30% of your total attack power for 1 minute. So it's a cool rune, but at the same time, it's not so cool because you have to be in melee range for this to proc. And the buff only lasts for 10 seconds. So, depending on, I'm not sure how the Sunken Temple fights look, but I know back in the day, in, let's just say, for example, on Ragnaros, right, you have a melee group, and then the range group, right, stand on the pit outside of Ragnaros. So in a fight like that, where you are not allowed to stack with the melee group, this is going to be sort of a useless rune to take. But I'm assuming there's no bosses like that in Sunken Temple, so it's fine for now. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this in next phase. But just know, basically what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to proc this with Rockbiter on some sort of junk weapon. You're going to proc it, and then you're going to swap back to your main hand weapon that has like your wizard oil on it and, like your actual strong weapon that you're using. So this is going to be very tedious, and it's going to be something that you have to do every 10 seconds. In terms of single target, Burn and Tidal Waves are not going to do anything. Tidal Waves is Restoration Shaman, and then Burn just is like an AoE Flame Shock. I think it's for tank, right? So that he can spread his threat out a little bit easier on trash pools. This is the only option, so we got to play with it. So again, just know you're going to have a weapon with Rockbiter on it. You're going to stab the raid boss, and then you're going to swap back to your normal main hand that has all your intellect and spell power on it. So a little tedious. I don't like this gameplay. I have no clue. I don't know. I feel like this should be able to proc from range spells too. So we'll see what happens there. That's what we're running though for now. Chest rune, Overload, gives your lightning bolt, chain lightning, chain heal, healing wave, lava burst, a 50% chance to cast a second similar spell on the same target at no additional cost that causes half damage and half healing and no threat. So basically, you're just going to mimic whatever spell you're casting at that time. You get a 50% chance to mimic it, and it's going to mimic at 50% of the normal damage. Hand rune, we're running Lava Burst. You hurl molten lava at the target, dealing X amount of fire damage. If your Flame Shock is on the target, Lava Burst will deal a critical strike. So you always want to have Flame Shock up on the target. That way this thing is always critting. It is your hardest hitting ability. All right, and the Waste Rune, Power Surge. Each time Flame Shock deals damage, it has a 5% chance to reset the cooldown on Lava Burst and Chain Lightning, and make the next Lava Burst, Chain Heal, or Chain Lightning within 10 seconds instant. Additionally, every 5 seconds, you gain mana equal to 15% of your intellect. So really good for helping to sustain mana. We have this. We have what we're about to talk about, Shamanistic Rage. We have Mana Pots. We have Mana Spring Totem. We get the mana back from Rolling Thunder, right? Gives you 2% max mana per charge released. So we have a lot of things to help us sustain our mana this phase. So it'll be really interesting to see how long we can sustain it at max damage with Chain Lightnings. All right, going on to the Leg Rune. Shamanistic Rage. This was reworked. So it used to be based kind of something similar to like Mental Dexterity, right? Where it would take attack power and convert that into mana. Now it's completely different. It's just based on your maximum mana. It's a better rework in my opinion. But unfortunately, we still do not get rid of the, like we talked about earlier with Mental Dexterity, where you get a buff a weapon with Rockbiter, then swap with the macro. We still got to play around it. But Shamanistic Rage is a little bit easier to play around now, because if you messed it up before and you Shamanistic Rage, you'd only get like 30 to 40% of your mana back if you didn't have the Rockbiter attack power buffing the mana you got back. So I'm kind of getting lost in the sauce right now, but just know that this got reworked and it will restore 75% of your max mana. Another cool thing here is whatever mana we got, your group or your party is going to get 20%, your party and raid is going to get 20% of the mana received this way. So it's basically like we got a built-in Manatide Totem now. So that's kind of cool. And then Foot Rune, Spirit of the Alpha is reworked a little bit too. You're going to put this on the tank. He's going to get 45% more threat. You're going to get 30% reduced threat, which is really good for Elemental Shaman because we're so bursty we can rip threat easily. And then if you are an Enhancement Shaman, you will get Loyal Beta, and that'll increase physical damage done by 5%. You'll get that too as Elemental, but we don't do physical damage. So, all right, let's talk about the rotation. I know this is phase 2 rotation, but it's still pretty much the same. Right, we're going to keep Flame Shock active at all times. We're going to cast Lava Burst whenever it's available. You're going to keep that on cooldown. We're going to use Elemental Mastery with Chain Lightning. We're going to keep Searing Totem up at all times. Chain Lightning again whenever it's available. Once again, if mana is an issue, you can always just instead use Lightning Bolt and just kind of skip out on this 5th step. The only thing that really changes is how we're working in Earth Shock to this. So, again, we're going to want to keep Lightning Shield up, right? If Lightning Shield's not up, we're not getting much benefit from Earth Shock. So, the only way this changes is Flame Shock is still active, but on every other shock, right, you want to be doing an Earth Shock. So, you want to keep Flame Shock up on the target, and then every other shock, you'll be Earth Shocking. And then, one thing it doesn't talk about is keeping Lightning Shield up. So you want to keep Lightning Shield up at all time. That's pretty obvious. But, you know, I would get a weak aura to track it. I played Restoration Shaman. There are weak auras out there that will say, hey, your shield is down. You'll be surprised on how many times you'll lose your shield just to random stuff. So you definitely want to keep that up. Then as far as these consumes, don't go off this. This is phase 2 consumes. So I don't think Zockify is updated with phase 3 stuff right now. It has some phase 3 talents and stuff, but it's just kind of in this weird in-between stage right now. All right, then in terms of our best in slot, this is our best in slot here, just coming from Zockify. I will just briefly hover over each item, and you guys can pause the video on what's interesting to you. And of course, you know, if you want to look at more, just go to the Zockify website. They have all this stuff laid out already. Alright guys, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. We will see you all in the next one.